Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we're the customers.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The House of Representatives has officially opened deliberations on long-standing proposals to ban political dynasties.
The impeachment complaints against President Marcos have been referred to the House Committee on Justice.
The ICC Pretrial Chamber 1 has authorized victims to participate in the case against former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Alex Ayala will take on Japan's Himeno Sakatsumi once more in the round of 16 of the Philippine Women's Open at the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center.
First in the news, two impeachment complaints against President Marcos are now officially in motion after being referred to the House Committee on Justice. The complaints, one filed by lawyer Andre De Jesus and another by the Makabayan Bloc, will be consolidated and taken up by the Justice Committee from February 2 to 4. The panel will first determine whether the complaints are sufficient in form and in substance. If they fail to meet these requirements, the cases may be dismissed outright.
We are not supposed to proceed to the succeeding step kung hindi makakapasa dun sa standard ng sufficiency in form and sufficiency in substance. Kailangan pa rin ang committee report, but we will not be able to reach the succeeding steps.
Malacanang said the president will respect the process, but warned that impeachment efforts affect not just the president, but the country and the economy.
Kinagalang po ng Pangulo kung ano man po ang mga activities, ginagawa at mga desisyon po ng House of Representatives. So hayaan po natin ang proseso na umandar na naaayon sa batas. Ang anumang pagsasampa ng impeachment complaint ay hindi lang ang Pangulo maapektuhan, kundi mismo ang bansa at ang ekonomiya.
The House of Representatives has formally begun deliberations on long-pending bills seeking to ban political dynasties. Here's the report.
The House of Representatives has begun deliberations on proposed bills seeking to curb political dynasties in the country. Included are versions filed by House Speaker Bogie D and House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, which were submitted in December. But during Tuesday's hearing of the House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, it emerged that there are already around 20 bills filed under the 20th Congress that aim to address political dynasties in the Philippines. One of these is the version filed by the Progressive Akbayan Party List. Under their proposal, relatives of a politician up to the fourth degree of consanguinity would be considered part of a political dynasty.
Grabe naman, fourth degree. Magre-result yan sa mass extinction. But if that mass extinction will result into the mass extinction of corruption, patronage politics, and poverty, then so be it.
Meanwhile, the version proposed by Caloocan Representative Edgar Erice seeks to limit related elected officials to only two, and only up to the second degree of relationship, such as a parent and child, one holding a national post and the other a local position.
Hindi makatwiran at hindi na epektibo kung pati magpipinsan at mas malayong kamag-anak ay babawalan. Kung ang iyong immediate family ay hindi magkasundo at sabay-sabay kayong kakandidato, pareho kayong madi-disqualify.
Also present at the hearing were representatives from civil society organizations, the framers of the 1987 Constitution, and 4 former Supreme Court justices. The discussion first tackled the long-standing debate on what exactly constitutes a political dynasty. As stated in Section 26, Article 2 of the Constitution, the state shall guarantee equal access to opportunities for public service and prohibit political dynasties as may be defined by law. The problem is, until now, no enabling law has been passed. And this is precisely what Congress must clearly establish in any bill that will be approved. This point was also emphasized by COMELEC Chairman George Garcia. According to him, the differing provisions among the various anti-political dynasty bills must first be reconciled.
Sa lahat po ng 21 bills, magkakaiba po ang remedies na ino-offer ng bawat isa. Tingnan niyo po, Ang ginamit ng iba, disqualification. Ang ginamit ng iba, cancellation. Magkaiba po ang implication ng disqualification at cancellation. Can a dynas be substituted? Dapat po mailagay din siguro yon. Kasi otherwise po, kung hindi, everybody can be substituted. Anybody can withdraw for a particular period.
House Speaker Boji D assured the public that the House will respond to the people's call.
Malinaw ang aming hangarin na seryosong talakayin ito ng kapulungan ng buo, tapat, at may malasakit sa bayan at sa kinabukasan ng ating pong bansa. Isang panukala na katanggap-tanggap ng ating mga kababayan at ng ating mga kapwa lingkod bayan.
The next committee hearing on political dynasties is scheduled on February 10.
Let's get insights from Ed Montayo, President and CEO of the Political Economic Elemental Researchers and Strategists, or PEERS. Good morning, Prof, and thanks for joining us again. Nice to see you. Prof, unmute po. We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Angelo.
Okay, so medyo mahaba-haba yung discussion nila yesterday doon sa deliberations nila sa anti-political dynasty bills. What is your reaction on that? Kasi medyo magaganda po yung punto no? Hanggang saan, 'di ba? Yung family ties should be restricted, kailan kailangan ibar ang isang kandidato. And of course, yung isang punto din na whether these measures would violate the public's right to vote and run for public. Your thoughts on that?
Medyo hindi lang mahaba yan, no? Masalimuot. In fact, I was invited in a constitutional reform forum the other week to tackle the same issue. And I was telling them that, well, I cited countries like Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, even the United States of America, and even Canada for that matter. Lahat yan may dynasties, Angela, ang kaibahan lang kasi doon sa mga bansang yan, kahit na ikaw ay kapatid, tatay, in the US, for example, I'm sure you've encountered, we've seen this not only in movies but also in in news, na yung mga anak ng pangulo dati nagiging pangulo din, nagiging senador, and so on and so forth. Itong recent memory, sila Bush,
Right.
Magtatayan, parehong naging pangulo ng Estados Unidos. Ang kaibahan kasi sa ibang bansa, hindi porke anak ka, hindi porke kapatid ka o kamag-anak ka, katulad ng mga Kennedy, for example, dumadaan ka pa din sa proseso ng pagpili at ang tawag dito, pagprepara ng isang partido, ng tunay na partido. Dito sa atin kasi walang tunay na partido. Dito sa atin, basta meron kang pangalan, meron kang pera, at madalas yung may pangalan, yung mga napatunayan na at yumaman sa kanilang sariling karera, sa negosyo, sa showbiz, lalong-lalo na kasi siyempre kapag may pangalan ka, ibig sabihin kilala ka, madalas yung mga paggising nila, bored sila kasi parang napatunayan na nila lahat ng gusto nilang patunayan, nabibili na nila yung gusto nilang bilhin, bored sila, paggising nila sa umaga, takbo kaya ako. Yun yung mga klase ng mga politiko na meron tayo, like itong mga babies natin,
Sad reality.
Oo, kung ipagpunyagi ng mga grupo ng Duterte, parang sinasabi nila na ito ang susunod na magagaling na mga leader. Pero wala pa napatunayan itong mga to. At sa totoo lang, puro pagpapapansin at puro, ang tawag dito, puro bantalang ang ginagawa nitong dalawang Nepo babies na ito. At hindi dyan nagtapos yan, Ang dami nating nakita ng mga kamag-anak na we were really hoping to see something different and something more progressive, but we didn't see that. Now, what I'm trying to say is, ang problema natin, kaya natin problema yung political dynasty kasi wala tayo halos nakikita na ang tawag dito bago, Sa madalit sabi, yung mga pumapalit na mga anak, na mga asawa, we're seeing the same kind of public service, if there's any public service to begin with.
Yeah.
in the sense, parang ang nangyayari, yung pagtakbo mo sa pwesto, yung pagiging mayor mo, gobernador mo, senador mo, negosyo, no? Actually, kaya mo ibinibigay sa asawa mo, sa anak mo, yung pwesto mo, kasi nung nagsimula ka, gumastos ka no? So, sa madalit sabi, bakit mo pababayaan yung hindi mo kakilala, kamag-anak, na pumalit dyan sa pwesto na yan, diyan ka kumikita in the first place no? In other countries, political leaders do not cease to be well-meaning and productive citizens in their own right, no? And yun na nga, yung kanilang pagtakbo hindi nanggagaling sa sarili nilang bulsa o kinakalap nila sa ibang tao, sa ibang grupo na
Mga negosyante.
dito nga sa atin. Dito nga sa atin, Angela, hindi mo nga alam kung saan nanggagaling
Yes.
yung pondo na pinagtatakbo ng kandidato. So, ano nga asahan mo? Pag nakaupo yan, babawiin niya yung ginasto niya ngayon. No? At dahil nga sa klase ng politika natin, sa klase ng gobyerno natin na napakadaling magnakaw, no? Makikita nung senador, makikita ni congressman, madali palang bawiin yung 5 milyon na ginastos ko, kung 5 milyon lang, assuming lang.
Barya.
So, bawiin na niya yung 5 milyon, sa tingin mo, titigil yan sa 5 milyon.
Oo.
Magiging 10 milyon yan, magiging 15 milyon yan, and so on and so forth. Walang katapusan. So, what I'm trying to get at is one, it's difficult to define what political dynasty is. Saan ka matatapos? Sa second degree, sa fourth degree? Lalo na dito sa atin, no? Ang dilema mo dyan, yung mga kamag-anak mo, kahit na napakalalayo ng magkakamag-anak, lalo na sa probinsya, no? Pinsan pa din ng turing mo dyan. Parang malapit mo,
That's right.
first
That's true.
mo pa din, no? Parang kapatid mo pa din yan. Pangalawa, with the coming of the LGBTQ community, paano mo i-define yung nagsasama, no? Mag-asawa ba yan? Yung bang kasama nilang mga bata, anak ba nila yan? O mga pinsan ba nila yan? So, yun yung magiging dilemma mo dyan. And of course, third, and this is of course going back to the idea of democracy. Aren't you limiting the choices? Because, again, if we look at the character of our communities, no, if we look at local governments, did you know that the Philippines has the most fragmented local governments in the whole world? Ikumpara na lang natin sa Indonesia, kapitbahay natin. Ang Indonesia, 6 times the size of the Philippines, because we're only 15.4% of the entire territory, no? Land area of Indonesia. Indonesia only has 33 provinces. We have how many? 82 provinces. In other words, yung mga munisipyo na lang natin, yung mga munisipyo natin kasing lalaki lang ng mga barangay sa ibang bansa. Sa madalit sabi, dahil maliliit yan, kukonti din lang ang mga residente niyan. And usually, yung mga residente, yung mga pamilya na nakakapag-aral, yun din yung mga elites dyan. So pagka ilimitahan mo yung pagpipilian, parang sinabi mo na ang iboto na lang nila yung mga hindi gaanong preparado, no? Para manungkulan, no? So yun yung problema mo dyan. So again, until such time that the first step is to establish real political parties.
Yun.
No? Yun ang kailangan natin. Yung political dynasty, magdedebate lang tayo dyan, hindi matatapos yan. That's our experience in the CONCOM in 2018. We still came up with the provision that's implementable, doesn't require any implementing law, because that's another problem in our constitution. The more, pasensya na, haba, no? The problem with our constitution, and this we've heard also from constitutional experts from all over the world, who we invited and engaged when we were drafting the federal constitution for the Philippines. And they only have one single interesting remark. We have, for lack of a better term, we have a crazy constitution, because all important provisions always end up as maybe provided for
That's
by law.
right.
In other words, the Constitution, which is supposedly enacted by the people, is inferior compared to laws enacted by representatives of the people. Kasi kailangan mo batas na i-enact ng representante mo, no, para ma-implement mo yung enactment mo, yung sarili mong inilathalang batas bilang soberenyang Pilipino.
Oo.
So kung hangga't hindi natin nagagamot 'yan, wala. We're back to zero. Magdedebate tayo ng magdedebate.
Maraming
Hindi
ano
Yeah, buti na lang sinabi mo, Prof, no? You were talking about yung reform, the political system, no? There's been a suggestion na, okay, mahirap nga i-reform tong political system. It's gonna take a long while. But ang punto dito is maybe we should start now instead of talking about political dynasties. Because if you talk about political dynasties now, and in the future you go on to reform the system, political system, para nagiging baliktad ata ang yung planning nito. So, should we take the first step and talk about maybe a 2 or 3 party system?
Well, we start with the establishment of an electoral system that will lead to either 2 or 3 political parties, because that's one of the things that's kind of difficult to with this measure, no, to say the least. There's no country which says there will only be 2 or 3 political parties. The number of political parties is essentially a result of the electoral parties, no, electoral system.
Yes.
So medyo technical kung pupuntahan natin yan. Ang sinasabi ko, we actually hindi na natin kailangan lumayo, Angelo. Tingnan na lang natin yung Bangsamoro Electoral Code.
Yes.
Actually, yun ang isa pang nakakalungkot dito, no? Ang ganda-ganda ng nangyayari sa BARM, sa totoo lang. Kaya lang ayaw pabayaan ng national leaders natin, no? Pero pagka tinignan mo yung mga batas na inilathala nila, nako, maiinis ka kung bakit hindi natin yung Omnibus Election Code na lang natin. Alam ba ninyo yung Omnibus Election Code natin 1940s pa na legislation? Tapos yan in-revise nung 1985, 2 years before we enacted the 1987 Constitution. Minsan hindi pa binalikan yung Omnibus Election Code. Gumawa tayo ng batas na dinagdag natin ng dinagdag, pero hindi natin in-update yung Omnibus Election Code. What I'm trying to say is, if you look at functioning political systems all over the world, a political party is defined not just as, and this is how it is defined in our archaic Omnibus Election Code. Political party is but an aggregation for political personalities to run together. In other words, it's just a campaign mechanism. Yun lang ang definition natin, napakapayak, napakasimplistic. But a real political party, if you look at other countries, is defined as a social institution. It's a go-between essentially an institution that serves as a go-between those who govern and those who are governed. No, so sa madalit sabi, ang mga tao ng political party ay professional din, no, kasi merong career, no, within the political party. They raise their own funds. Their own funds are also auditable, just like any public institution for that matter. In other words, it has its own independent existence. No, it is able to propagate its beliefs, its principles. Hence, in the process, is able to recruit, no, well-meaning individuals and prepare them for public office. Hindi yung pagising mo sa umaga, wala kang magawa, takbo kaya ako, no? Pag tinanong mo anong programa mo, bigyan ng jacket 'yan. Ganyan ang klase ng mga politiko natin.
So, well, watching the deliberations yesterday, sa dami ng mga pinunto nila doon, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that this is just, parang magiging FOI na lang din, dead end sila? Kasi until now, even the, slightest definition of dynasty, hindi sila magkasundo. Dahil most of the members in the Congress are also part of political dynasty, even in the Senate.
Saka hindi small provisions ang pinag-uusapan nila, ang lalayo ng mga differences nila.
Exactly. I'll be optimistic in my answer. Kasi this is again from experience. Ito yung naging resulta ng aming botohan sa CONCOM noong 2018. The best that we can do is only up to the second degree of consanguinity. It's not really realistic, admittedly. No, but I told you a number of factors, lalong-lalo na dun sa mga maliliit na komunidad, saan pa sila hahanap ng kandidato nila. No, a case in point, for example, no, I was asked to help a municipality in Maguindanao. And I found out that the department heads are not even residents of that municipality. And the simple reason is that walang qualified na makuha doon sa munisipyo nila. So nag-recruit sila ng qualified na tao para ma-appoint na department head doon sa munisipyong 'yon. So paano mo ngayong gagawin 'yan sa eleksyon? Sino ang patatakbuhin mo at sino ang iboboto mo? Lalo na ako, ikaw ay simpleng botante. Sino ang iboboto mo na makikita mo na kwalipikado yung tumatakbo?
But do you think it's also fair yung isang binabanggit doon during the deliberations na, okay, let's allow 3 family members in the politics arena. One would be in the local, one in the international, and one in barangay. Otherwise, katulad yung nangyayari ngayon sa atin na 4, 3 yata yung magkakapatid sa Senado, bawal. So do you think that's fair naman?
Oh, naku, matagal na yan, Angela. Yung Senado natin talagang kakaiba. No? Alam mo, dyan pa lang sa Senado, magsimula na lang tayo dyan. Kung dyan pa lang, malilimitan na sa isang miyembro ng pamilya ang pwedeng tumakbo, medyo malaking bagay na yun. Kasi wala namang kasing constituency ang Senado natin. Pag binalikan mo yung kasaysayan natin, kakaiba din yung rason kung bakit create yan. No? Ang sinabi ng dating Pangulong Manuel Quezon, maglagay tayo ng institusyon na supposedly, quote-unquote, will prepare future presidential leaders. Kasi kaya niya ginawa yon kasi inamyendahan din niya yung saligang batas para makatakbo siya ulit. Kasi dati one term lang talaga No? So sa madalit sabi, hindi dinefine kung anong constituency nito. Pag tinignan mo sa ibang bansa, lahat ng merong second chamber, yung second chamber palaging ang iba ang nire-representa sa lower chamber. Kasi yung lower chamber, distrito yan.
That's right.
No? Second chamber, usually ang nire-representa niyan, katulad sa Estados Unidos, yung mga estado. No? Ito, sinong nire-representa nila? Pamilya nila.
That's right. That's right. So, moving forward, it's been also said na instead of trying to create different special laws to fix the electoral system, the political system, why don't we just take a look at altogether changing the form of government? Kasi ang premise ng political dynasty, Prof, correct me if I'm wrong, is territorial control of local areas. Influence. Ngayon, in a federal form of government, madaming redundancies. You have the state senator, you have district congressmen, and that they will never be on the same party, so may check and balance sila.
That's really ideal, Angelo. No, we look at the whole setup. It's like saying dati okay lang ang combustion engine, no? Ngayon renewable energy na tayo. Although another issue yan, Hindi natin naintindihan na yung renewable energy katulad ng mga baterya actually hindi din environmental friendly in the long term. Now, pero dahil nga nagbabago ang panahon, nagbabago yung paraan natin ng address, pag-address ng mga issues. Now, having said that, ideal yung overhaul, Kaya mo binabago yung sistema, kaya mo binabago yung sasakyan mo.
Yeah.
Pero kung kasi nga ang gusto natin tingi-tingi kung tingi-tingi, meron pa din naman ang approach. Ang tingnan natin yung political party system at electoral system. Baguhin natin, magtalaga tayo ng tunay na political party. Yung COMELEC, balikan natin. Yung COMELEC, bukod tangi din yung COMELEC natin. Yung COMELEC natin, administration na ng election, tapos sila din ng adjudication. Sa ibang bansa magkahiwalay yun. Iba yung nag-administer ng halalan, iba yung nag-adjudicate ng mga issue na may kinalaman sa halalan, So tingnan muna natin yung mga yon, yung basics muna. And then eventually when we see that it's actually, bearing fruit, then it's high time to change the whole system. Pero ang pinaka-ideal nga yung sinasabi mo, kaya lang yun na nga I really doubt it.
Walang perfect world daw.
In a perfect world, sana. But I guess this is still a long road.
Definitely. But we have to keep on pushing it. We have to keep pushing it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, balik tayo ng balik. Itong flood control na to, sa tingin ninyo, tapos na? Hindi. Balikan ninyo lahat na nangyari. Nagkaroon tayo ng Napoles, nagkaroon tayo ng Farmally na hanggang ngayon wala pa din tayong alam kung ano talaga nangyari. Naglaho na lang na parang bula, no? Tapos ngayon meron tayong flood control. Hanggat hindi natin binabago yung sistema natin, magkakaroon tayo ng mga politiko na tatakbo lang, popondohan nila yung pagtakbo nila,
Yeah.
babawiin nila ngayon yung pondong ginastos nila sa pagtakbo nila. So corruption pa din yan.
Oo. Well, ito nga daw at least daw pinag-uusapan na. Gusto mo daw pinag-uusapan na, gusto mo pa to pa rin. Prof. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras and of course your insights, Edmund Tayo, President and CEO of Peers. Maraming salamat po. Now let's check the latest over at the House of Representatives. We have mobile journalist Amy Atienza on the ground. Amy, kamusta? Yung mga congressman natin na nag-deliberate yesterday sa political dynasty.
Well, so far today, tahimik pa Angela Diego dito sa lower chamber, Pero kahapon, napakarami ng napag-usapan din talaga dito sa Kamara. Simulan na natin yung pagsisimula nga dun sa anti-political dynasty bill na talagang tinatalakay pa rin hanggang ngayon at sa mga susunod pang araw, syempre. Bukod pa dyan, narinig din natin sa plenary session kahapon dito sa House of Representatives, na gusto ulit nilang i-reevaluate yung case naman ni suspended Representative Kiko Barzaga. Una na dyan, syempre, kinakailangan na nga ding i-check daw yung ethics muli ng kongresista, lalong-lalo na nung panahon ng kanyang suspension. Bukod pa dyan, syempre, after suspension na 60 days ay inaatasan na sana nga daw ay umattend ng committee hearing itong si Representative Barzaga. At pangatlo, syempre, immediately reported to the House of Representatives para nga makita yung actions. Dahil kung babalikan din natin, may mga recommendations daw kasi na-expel na nga itong si Representative Barzaga dito sa Kamara. At bukod pa dyan, anti-political dynasty bill, tapos sumunod yung usapin kay Representative Barzaga, napag-usapan na rin dito yung pagsisimula nga ng impeachment matapos ma-verify yung impeachment complaints laban kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. So dun sa naging interview din, kasama si Representative Jervin Luistro, na sabi niya na by February 2 to 4 ay doon na magsisimula ang usapin tungkol naman sa impeachment. Angela Diego?
Naririnig mo dyan na usapin tungkol sa pagsuporta ng impeachment na ito. Of course, we have been talking about this, discussing na this is a numbers game, it's a political process. Ano ba yung mas matimbang ngayon? Yung suporta para dito sa impeachment complaint na ito or ang hindi pagsuporta?
So far, naririnig natin dito, mas marami pa rin kongresista yung nagpakita ng suporta kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. So kahit may narinig na tayo, syempre may nag-endorse na din ng mga miyembro ng Kamara dito sa House of Representatives tungkol dun sa impeachment ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Marami pa rin ang nagpapakita ng suporta sa National Unity Party pa lang. Kung makikita natin, nasa 40 members yan. Talagang pinapakita nila yung suporta nila kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Yun na nga din yung naging panayam kasama si Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno, kung saan sinasabi niya na wala naman daw credible evidence na maibibigay yung ilang mga complainants tungkol nga dito sa issue na pinaparatang nila kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Pero yun nga, sinisigurado pa rin ng House of Representatives na dadaan yan sa tamang proseso. At kung pag-uusapan din naman natin yung magiging side ni Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, considering natatay niya nga ito si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, syempre wala na rin naman daw magagawa kundi sumunod nga sa proseso na kinakailangan pagdaanan ng impeachment.
Alright, maraming salamat sa iyong oras, mobile journalist Amy Atienza. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Some senators are pushing back against a Facebook post by the Chinese embassy in Manila, calling it disrespectful and an intrusion into the country's affairs. Here's the report.
A Facebook post by the Chinese embassy in Manila has drawn strong criticism from Senator Risa Ontiveros. According to Ontiveros, the post appeared to downplay a Senate resolution signed by 15 senators which condemned the Chinese embassy's statements against Philippine government officials.
Ganyan pa rin ang tono nila, bastos, walang paggalang. at gusto pa rin nila sila ang masusunod. Hindi lang sa dagat ng Pilipinas, hindi lang sa social media ng Pilipinas, pati sa Senado ng Pilipinas.
During discussions at the Senate on Tuesday, the possibility was raised of declaring Chinese Embassy Deputy Spokesperson Go Wei as persona non grata, and even replacing Chinese Ambassador to the Philippines Xing Quan. In the end, however, the Senate deferred approval of the resolution. Senate Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano moved for the issue to be brought to a hearing to determine what exactly Philippine Coast Guard Commodore J. Terriela had said that angered China. Among those who did not sign the resolution condemning China's attacks was Alan Peter Cayetano, along with other members of the minority bloc and the Duterte bloc. On Monday, Senators Risa Ontiveros and Rodante Marcoleta engaged in a heated debate.
Napakalaki ng China, napakamayaman ng ekonomiya ng bansa na pwede po natin sigurong maging siguro kakampi sa mga darating pong mga panahon kung maisasantabi po natin ang mga sigalot na namamayani sa ating bansa.
In principle, bakit hindi? Pero pwede ba nating maging kakampi ang China kung ipagpapatuloy niya ang pinaggagawan niya sa ating karagatan, sa internet?
Aside from Marcoleta, Senator Robin Padilla also did not sign the resolution.
Tagal ko na rin sinabi na may budget naman ng Coast Guard, ba't di kayo bumili ng mas malakas na water cannon at gumanti kayo?
That suggestion was answered by PCG Commodore J. Terriela.
Alam natin na ang China ay humahanap ng paraan para maisisi sa atin ang pagtaas ng tensyon sa West Philippine Sea. The moment we use our water cannons, the Chinese Coast Guard may have a justification to increase their aggression to the next level.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines also insisted that it has evidence of China's illegal activities and harassment of Filipinos.
The facts on the ground do not lie. We have videos for this to supplement all our reports. Hence, we leave it up to the Filipino people to be the judge.
Kapatid Mobile Journal Julie Baiza, We're One News.
And for the latest over at the Senate, we have our mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon, ano bago dyan?
Good morning. Sa ngayon kasi simula lang ng hearing ng Senate Committee on Social Justice patungkol sa pag-institutionalize ng AICS or Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations. At so far, may mga representatives from the DOH, from the DBM, from DSWD na magbibigay pagpapaliwanag ulit or insight especially sa mga civil society organizations kung ano ba yung pwede pang gawin para mapabuti kung sakaling may institutionalize na talaga itong AICS ng walang political intervention.
Okay, Merimon, tanong ko lang din yung pinag-usapan dyan or pinag-iisipan nila regarding the absence of Senator Bato de la Rosa. I think parang chine-check nila kung po pwede bang suspindihin yung sweldo niya but not yung mga tauhan niya because they're still doing their job there.
Ang nasabi dyan ni Senator Ping Lacson, para tinitingnan nila yung possible na resolution sa problemang ito is kung magkakaroon ng filing against this kasi nagbibilang din ngayon ng buwan Parang ang tansya, pagka mga 6 months ba, questionable na ba talaga itong extensive absence ni Senator Bato de la Rosa dito. Pero sabi dito ni Senator Ping, pag-aaralan daw nila, titignan nila kasi technically wala pa rin talagang legalities na nalalabag itong senador, lalo pa yung kanyang opisina at yung mga staff niya nananatiling operational. Pero bukod dyan, yung ang isang tinatanong din dito ng ilang mga senador, for example, si Senate President Tito Soto, is yung nakakapagpirma itong si Senator Bato de la Rosa, especially sa mga ilang panukalang batas. Meron kasing ilang bills na binasa sa session nung Monday na pirmado ni Senator Bato. Kaya yan din yung isa sa gustong bigyan linaw ni SP Soto, even yung minority report, pero ang tawag na dito ni SP Soto, minority opinion ang tawag, may pirma din dito ang senador. So medyo tinitingnan nila ngayon yung technicalities patungkol sa case ni Senator Bato.
Pwede, may pirma pa rin, pwedeng malaman kung nasaan siya.
Meron mo kasi isang tinitignan nila na pwedeng daw mag-resolve itong issue kay Senator Bato is also yung Ethics Committee, which ang problema, hindi pa constituted. I remember we spoke to Senator JV, sabi niya kasi one of the roadblocks is kulang pa daw ng isang pangalan na nagagaling sa minority. So far, isa lang daw ang sinubmit. May balita ka ba dito?
Oo, nitong plenary session sa pagbabalik na kompleto na yung kabuuan nitong composition ng Senate Ethics Committee. So still, Senator J.V. Ejercito ang nanunungkulan as chairperson, vice chairperson, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. medyo nagkaroon lang ng changes sa members from the minority. Kasi imbes na sila Senator Joel Villanueva at
Yeah.
Senator Bato de la Rosa, medyo may conflict of interest daw dito dahil doon sa mga, mga kasong kinakaharap ng dalawa. So, ipinalit sa kanila si Senator Amy Marcos at saka si Senator Marcoleta. While for the majority, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Erwin Tulfo, sila ngayon yung bumubuo ng Ethics Committee. Ang sabi dito ni Senator JV, once na ito na convened na ang pinaka-komite, for sure naman daw, iisa-isahin na nila yung mga nakabinbin na ethics complaints.
So officially constituted na yung Ethics Committee, Merriman?
Technically buo na, pero ang hinihintay natin ngayon is yung magiging schedule na nila para i-process na yung mga ethics complaint. Kasi nung pagsisimula pa lang din ng 20th Congress, meron na mga i-file dito. Meron din against Senator JV na kesyo hindi na inaksyonan agad yung complaint naman laban sa isang senador. So marami-rami yung parang lagpas 5 daliri yung bilang ng mga ethics complaints, sabi ni Senator JV. Pero yun nga, since ngayon, eto na buo na yung ethics committee, mag-convene na talaga sila, poproseso na nila isa-isa.
Meron ka bang balita, Merriman, na if ever will Senator JV inhibit himself pagdating sa ethics complaint against him, or will he be part of it?
Wala pang sinasabi ang senador tungkol dyan. Kasi last time na natanong din yung senador tungkol dyan, ang pinaka-sinasabi niya muna, hindi pa rumulorolyo itong mga ethics complaints sa komite kasi nga hindi pa kompleto, may kulang pa from the minority, hindi pa sila nagko-convene. Pero since bumalik na yung session, nakompleto na yung committee, yung mga miyembro nito, lahat naman daw yon ipoproseso nila. And since hindi lang din naman siya yung nakaupo dito, may ilang mga miyembro pa, kaya yung mga ethics complaint iikot dito sa mga senador talaga.
Paano yung magiging dynamics sa ethics committee pagdating sa mga reklamo? Sabi mo nga medyo marami na. And even Senator JV Ejercito told us nga daw na medyo may bilang na yung mga ethics complaint. Kasi if the reports are right, sabi nila by March, 'di ba, mag-ikaka 6-month na yon ni Senator Bato de la Rosa na wala, na hindi pumapasok sa Senado. I think si former Senator Antonio Trillanes will file an ethics complaint against him.
Ang nasabi ni Senator JB, kasi wala pa siyang ibang experience talaga pagdating sa pag-handle ng ethics committee. Kaya ngayon, kumbaga magkakaroon din siya ng pagkakapa bilang chairperson ng ethics committee ng Senado. Yan din yung isang sinabi rin ni Senator Ping na baka kasi merong i-file na si former Senator Trillanes, especially tungkol dito sa case naman ni Senator Bato, extensive absence niya. So marami-rami pa raw na kailangan talagang pag-usapan, especially yung technicalities. On the case of Senator Bato, kung meron ba talagang malalabag or kung merong resolution na malalabas ang ethics para magkaroon na ng consequences talaga na since naging extensive na and may mga question din yung ilang mga senador doon sa pagpapatuloy ng opisina ni Senator Bato, malamang yung mga yun ipoproseso na rin ng ethics committee. Pero yun nga, sabi ni Senator JV, ngayon, kakakonvene pa lang, kumpleto na sila, pero wala pa siyang ibang prior experience talaga or knowledge tungkol dito. So, makalalaman natin as the weeks pass by kung paano nila i-handle itong mga complaint.
And of course, para lang malinaw tayo ulit, kailan yung magiging, yung resumption ng Senate Blue Ribbon Committee doon sa investigation nila sa flood control projects?
Angela, ang nasabi dyan ni Blue Ribbon Committee Chair Senator Ping Lacson, wala pa raw siyang sa schedule dito, pero sure daw na merong schedule na susunod ang Blue Ribbon Committee kasi tumatayo yung mga show cause order na in-issue nila last time, and itong sila former Congressman na Saldico, sina Orly Gutesa, mga hindi raw sumagot. So kailangan daw ng kailangan daw bumalik yung hearing para ma-issue naman yung mga rights to cite them for contempt. Ang tansya rin dito ni Senator Ping, parang 2 or 3 at most na lang daw yung magiging pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon Committee patungkol sa mga anomalyang flood control projects. At ang sabi rin dito ni Senator Ping, malapit na rin daw matapos yung partial committee report. And then, so pag lumabas na yan, doon natin makikita yung possibility kung maa-attach na rin itong tinatawag munang minority opinion, pero from the minority, tawag nila doon minority report.
Alright, sige, maraming salamat muli sa inyong oras. That is our mobile journalist, Merriman Reyes, reporting live from the Senate.
Now, Malacanang is dismissing allegations by Representative Leandro Leviste that the country is under what he calls a de facto martial law. Leviste claimed critics of the government are being silenced through legal cases, comparing the situation to Marcos Sr. era. He also alleged that billions of pesos are being used to influence media and social media personalities. But the palace refused to engage with the accusations, saying not all claims deserve a response.
Marami ay tahimik dahil sa takot na makasuhan, dahil nakikita na ang mga kritiko ng administrasyon ang mga unang sinasampahan ng kaso habang ang ibang mga kaalyado ay hinahayaan.
Not all wrong opinions deserve a response from the palace. Yun lang.
In other news, the International Criminal Court, or ICC pretrial chamber, one has formally authorized victims to participate in the case against former President Rodrigo Duterte and appointed a common legal team to represent their interest. Here is the report.
The camp of former President Rodrigo Duterte said he was denied due process after the International Criminal Court declared him fit to stand trial. In a statement, lawyer Nicholas Kaufman expressed disappointment over the decision, arguing that the defense was denied the opportunity to present its own medical evidence. He added that they were not allowed to challenge the findings of medical professionals appointed by ICC judges to assess Duterte's condition. Kaufman stressed that they would appeal the decision. Vice President Sara Duterte, for her part, appeared resigned to the recent ICC ruling.
I think part naman na siya sa process, no? Madugay na nato na siya gihulat. So, ang family, wala pa mi nakadiscuss og statement. We should come out with a statement. Pero, unya na lang, namot siguro istoryahan.
Meanwhile, the ICC has formally authorized the participation of victims in the case against Duterte. In a 15-page decision, the chamber approved victims proven to have direct link to the killings in Davao when Duterte was mayor, and the nationwide killings when he was president. ICC-accredited lawyers Joel Butuyan and Gilbert Andres have been appointed as common legal representatives for the victims. Both Butuyan and Andres have expressed their availability and willingness to participate in the trial. Meantime, Bayan chairperson and human rights lawyer Neri Colmenares told One News The Big Story that he is confident in the strength of the charges filed against the former president.
If you're innocent kasi, you want speedy trial. You don't want to delay it because the longer you delay it, you're in prison. But in this case, they're delaying the trial. So hopefully this is the first step and a trial will ensue.
Colmenares also noted that a trial can proceed as long as at least one charge is officially confirmed. The ICC pre-trial Chamber 1 scheduled the confirmation of charges hearing on February 23.
Joining us now is ICC-accredited lawyer, Attorney Gilbert Andres. Good morning, Attorney. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Angelo and Angela.
All right, Attorney, let's get right to it. No? From a legal standpoint, does the ICC ruling on fitness to stand trial follow to participate? Means, does it follow the process? Ano ba ang take nyo dito, Attorney?
Yes, it actually followed the process, and it's not precise to say that due process was denied. Because in fact, the defense filed last July 18, 2025, its submission of medical reports, which actually attach new medical records that have come into its possession. And in fact, the process from September 23 up to this week was actually because of that filing of the defense with respect to Mr. Duterte's fitness to participate. Of course, there's also the independent three-person expert panel which gave its report.
Well, could you tell us your new role in this case, you and Attorney Butuyan?
I and Attorney Butuyan were two of the three common legal representatives for victims. The third one will come from the Office of the Public Counsel for Victims. So we will be the ones who will actually state the views and concerns, as well as the statements and the legal arguments of the victims in terms of the pre-trial proceedings.
And then, have you met the victims? I think you're going to handle 30 po ba? Tama po ba yan? 30 drug war victims? Have you met them already, all of them?
We're constantly coordinating with victims groups, although I cannot give any details due to the heightened security risks, but we're always in contact with the victims of the war on drugs.
Well, having said that, of course, nakakita po namin sa mga balita yung sinasabi ng ICC na they are allowing the victims to formally participate sa proseso, no? So, paano po ba ito? Ano po bang ibig sabihin nun? And how is this case will move forward?
Okay, kasi ang context dito is that the ICC proceedings are victim-centered proceedings. So, ang mga victims po, kailangan po nila mag-apply, at yun nga, nagkaroon po ng application process for victim participation. At yung naging decision po ng pretrial chamber last January 26 ay kung sino po ba yung mga aprobado po na mga victim participants. So technically, sila po yung mga makakapag-participate po sa proceedings na to.
And I believe there are some number of victims that were rejected, their applications to participate in the trial. What were the reasons po? Ano po yung factor na bakit po hindi sila pinayagan yung ibang mga victims?
Okay, kasi mayroong ABC mechanism yung registry Yung B po, yun po yung mga victim applicants kung saan nasa clear po na nasa labas po sila ng scope ng investigation ng ICC. Ibig sabihin, baka labas sila sa time period which is from November 1, 2011 hanggang March 16, 2019. Or pwedeng labas din po sila dun sa territorial scope, Kasi mayroong count 1 kung saan during the mayoral period ni Mr. Duterte. So baka po dun sila sa labas ng Davao City. So ito po yung mga pwedeng naging factors po bakit mayroong pong mga type B kung saan they're clearly outside the scope of the investigation of the ICC.
And this one, I asked Attorney Cristina Conti also yesterday about this because some people, some critics are criticizing yung pag-imbita po or pagsama or pagsabi sa publiko ng iba pang mga witness. Kumbaga pagpapublicize, pag-i-encourage at this point in the case na magkaroon pa po panawagan na magkaroon pa ng mga witnesses. What is the wisdom behind that?
Okay, let's be very precise. I think you're referring, Angela, dun sa OTP, Office of the Prosecutor,
Yes.
call for insider witnesses from the police and other law enforcement agencies in the Philippines. I think this is just a usual procedure for the Office of the Prosecutor so that they can also have specific witnesses. Kasi insider witnesses po, hindi po basta-basta yan makakalapit po sa ICC. Kailangan po nila ng secure facility, electronic facility po at binigay po yung potential pong yan na makontak po yung ICC. Kaya po linagay po yan ng Office of the Prosecutor.
And attorney, medyo para at least ma-educating viewers natin ng konti kasi medyo ibang proseso natin dito sa Pilipinas with regards to rules of court. With the upcoming confirmation of charges hearing set already, what should we expect realistically? Na how many days will this take? What happens after? Anong roadblocks na nakikita natin?
Okay, Angelo, yesterday the pretrial chamber 1 issued a scheduling order. So it will be 4 days. So from February 23, it's a Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday po. So 4 days po yung confirmation of charges hearing. And then it's approximately from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Hague time. So merong 7-hour difference. Now, for those of our kababayans and other people who want to watch it, you can watch it online, although may 30-minute delay lang for security reasons. Now, what do we expect? We expect that first the prosecutor or the Office of the Prosecutor will give its opening statement. Then the victims po, magbibigay din po ng opening statement. And then yung defense po. At mag-argue yung prosecutor, kung bakit po dapat ituloy po sa trial proper yung 3 counts against Mr. Duterte. And the victims po, kami mga CLRV, Common Legal representative for victims ay magbibigay din ng aming mga arguments bakit po dapat ituloy sa trial proper. And the defense will also present their side. So ito pong ma-expect natin for the next 4 days of that week.
And what will be the possible scenario upon this confirmation of charges? Of course, no, para lang alam din ng ating mga kababayan, this is not the actual trial yet.
Yes, you're right on that, Angela. This is not the trial proper. This is actually pre-trial. And in fact, ang burden po ng Office of the Prosecutor is to show that there are substantial grounds to believe that the suspect, Mr. Duterte, committed 3 counts of crimes against humanity for murder. Opo. At mga argumento po ito, wag po nating expect na mayroong live na mga witnesses kasi it's very rare during confirmation of charges na may live witnesses. So it's really oral arguments. At yung mga papel-papel naman, nandyan na po yan sa document containing charges that was filed by the Office of the Prosecutor, as well as the pre-confirmation brief.
Well, the defense has already, kumbaga, exhausted all the legal means to delay the trial. First, of course, yung interim release, the jurisdiction of the case, and recently yung stand to fit in the trial. How are the victims? No? Mostly kasi yung mga decision ng pre-trial chamber ay favorably doon sa mga for the case to move forward. So how are they? Are they very optimistic or confident about this case right now?
Well, Angela, the victims are very hopeful and they're very thankful for the string of decisions that were issued by the pre-trial chamber, and they're continuing to pray, continuing to hope, and they acknowledge and they recognize that ito po yung confirmation of charges hearing that will start on February 23 is just the first step. There will be multiple other steps, and they're awaiting that so that they can attain justice.
Okay, na-curious lang ako, attorney, no, kasi yung mga ICC accredited lawyers po natin na mga Filipino, bilang lang po kayo 3 or 5, tama po ba?
I
Ilan
think
po?
5, although I heard that there's a 6th one.
Oo.
I think there are 6 Filipinos in the ICC list of counsels.
Okay. And kayo pong dalawa ni Attorney Butuan were officially appointed by the pre-trial chamber to assist with the victim. So ano po ba yung mga parang naging parameters or factors na kayo pong dalawa po yung napili to do this new role?
First, dapat list sa ICC list of counsels. It's actually a very specific list. Secondly, I think the factors that were considered also is our nationality as bilang Filipino po. Kasi isipin po natin parang it's in a foreign country, yung ICC,
Language barrier.
Oo, may language barrier. We understand yung language ng mga biktima po, and we can actually bridge yung ICC with the victims and vice versa. So I think yun pong mga na-consider. And remember, this is also a victim-centered approach, kaya mahalaga din po yung boses ng mga biktima sa prosesong ito.
Alright, patuloy po kami makikipag-ugnayan sa inyo regarding this. Of course, dun sa nalalapit na confirmation of charges. For the meantime, maraming salamat po. ICC accredited lawyer, Attorney Gilbert Andres.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The city government of Marikina is granting tax exemptions this year to qualified sari-sari stores and carinderias. Mobile Journal Evan Trinca reports.
Aside from the reminders that government employees in Marikina should not frown while transacting with the public, small sari-sari store and carinderia owners also have a reason to smile after being granted tax exemption for this year.
No frowning allowed. This is the reminder issued by the Marikina Local Government Unit to City Hall employees who deal directly with constituents, especially during the payment of business permits and taxes. This comes after the city government received several complaints from taxpayers who claimed they were treated rudely by some employees while transacting at City Hall. According to Marikina City Mayor Ma Anchodoro, such behavior is unacceptable and constituents deserve respect.
Medyo dismayado ako at naiinis. Walang puwang ang nakakunot. Kataas ang kilay o ang bibig na nakasimangot?
Some taxpayers we spoke to said they welcome this reminder, noting that rude treatment during transaction is not new, but they also try to understand that government employees may already be exhausted.
Meron. Pero okay lang. Kasi syempre pagod na rin naman sila eh. Diba? Intindihin na lang natin.
Along with the payment period, sari-sari stores and carinderias will be granted a full business permit and business tax exemption for this year under a newly approved ordinance. According to the ordinance, sari-sari store and small food businesses with an annual gross receipt of not more than 250,000 pesos or startup capital not exceeding 10,000 pesos are covered by the tax exemption. This brings significant relief to small food business owners like Nanay Imelda Cañero, who usually pays almost 9,000 pesos in taxes every year.
Biruin mo, hindi ka na magta-tax, di ba? Pag namuhunan ka kasi ng 5,000 sa mga kari-karinderyang ganyan, parang wala ka namang masyadong doon, hindi naman ganun kalaki yung tubo doon.
Under the ordinance, sari-sari store and carinderias that sell cigarettes or alcoholic beverages are not qualified for the full business permit and tax exemption. Businesses with capital exceeding 10,000 pesos are also excluded from the tax incentive. Kapatid Mobile Journal Ivan Tarinque, we are One News.
In sports, Alex Ayala is set for a rematch against Japan's Himeno Sakatsumi in the round of 16 of the Philippine Women's Open at the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center. Sakatsumi advanced to the second round, setting up a showdown with Ayala, whom she defeated in straight sets back in 2023 in Osaka. But a lot has changed since then. Ayala now sits inside the WTA top 50 following a breakthrough 2025 season, while Sakatsumi is also enjoying a career best run at world number 140. The much anticipated match is scheduled 6 p.m. Wednesday, with Ayala carrying the hopes of the home crowd in the country's first ever WTA 125 event.
And for our quote for today, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Get a life. Join us again tomorrow, Matcha Lalagusod Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.